Hello, all, and happy holidays from the Movie Bears podcast. As usual, we like to chill out each week and talk about movies and dish up some film news, if you will. It's kind of our thing. We've been doing it for a while now. In fact, we're coming up on our 2-year anniversary here pretty soon. That's kind of crazy. But with me, as usual, is Jim Poliafco
Hi, guys, and hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast.
and Will Lindis.
Ho, ho, ho! Welcome back, people.
Well, actually,
Wow.
you're wearing an elf hat, so
I guess, yeah, well,
you should be
yeah.
talking in a squeaky voice, and I should be going, ho, ho.
Merry Christmas, everyone!
Wow. For those who are listening on digital tape delay, you, of course, do not see our festive holiday wear. You are missing out, man. I'm telling you. Our Santa hats are awesome, especially
It
Jim,
is
who's
a sight to
representing
behold.
University of Arizona, going to the Fiesta Bowl here
Yes.
in a few weeks. Woo!
Bear down, go Cats.
That's right. Go Wildcats. Anyway, we have a big show this week. We're kind of punting and making something out of nothing at all because it's been kind of a shitty weekend for movies. Not a lot really out this last weekend. So we are instead going to be celebrating the holidays by
This-
talking.
Yeah, there's still some good movies out. There's just, as far as new releases go, I think it's a little slow right now. There's a bit of a lull.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot of the ones that are still lingering in theaters in previous episodes, and then there's a few that are bouncing around in limited release that aren't quite ready for us to talk about because they're not in most theaters yet. So we're in this weird little black hole this week.
Right.
Indeed. So, as I was saying, not really a lot to talk about movie-wise. So instead, we're going to be talking about some of our favorite Christmas/holiday films. And for those of you who are tuning in live, we invite you to comment on Facebook or on the show here on Google and let us know what your favorite films are. And we may give you a shout out on air here. But before we get into our holiday-rific festivities, we've got a little bit of movie news. All right, so after like a month of double feature episodes almost, it's finally time to kind of catch up on what's going on in the film world. Jim, what's got your interest lately?
Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, there's a lot to catch up on. We've seen a lot of things happen in movie news the last couple of weeks, and we've been just so busy, reviewing movies and stuff that we haven't really hit on much news. We did talk about the new Star Wars trailer in last week's show. So if you're excited about that and happen to miss last week's show, go back and listen to the beginning of that. We really dive in to that teaser trailer that was released. But this week, what's got my attention most specifically is the announcement that Toho Studios, and Toho is the studio that produced and released the original Godzilla movie back in 1954. I'm not exactly sure.
54, I think, was Gojira.
54.
Yep, 1954.
They put out the first Gojira or Godzilla movie, and several movies since. They've just announced that they're actually going to be making a new Godzilla movie to be produced in 2015, coming right up, and then released in 2016. Now, this is in addition and separate to, of course, the Godzilla 2 movie that's going to be put out by Legendary Studios and director Gareth Edwards, who gave us Godzilla this year. The next movie in the sequel to that Godzilla franchise, I guess if you could say, is coming out in 2018. So it sounds like Toho is going to be giving us something well before the release of Gareth Edwards' Godzilla. So we're going to have plenty of Godzilla in the next 2 years. It's going to be interesting to see what Toho brings to the screen because, at least in my mind, the new Godzilla produced by Legendary Studios and Gareth Edwards is kind of a different take, a much more modern state-of-the-art special effects driven movie and monster characterization than we ever got with Toho, which is, the majority of their Godzilla movies are kind of the man in the rubber suit Godzilla kind of movie. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they're doing. I don't know if they're just trying to cash in on the resurgence of Godzilla, or they're trying to restake a claim to their original, saying, hey, fuck you, Legendary, we make the best Godzilla, and here's what we're going to put on the screen. But did you guys see this news, and do you guys have any thoughts on it?
I hadn't heard about it till you mentioned it, like, I don't know, 2 hours ago on our oh my god, what are we all doing tonight Facebook chat.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I was a huge fan of the new Godzilla movie. In fact, I think it's going to end up being on my top 10 of the year, believe it or not. So it's kind of weird that we're already getting another Godzilla film, granted from a different studio. I loved the original film. I don't know what in the hell Toho Studios has been doing the last 70 years, but besides Godzilla films. But I'll be interested to see, what they've got planned for it. Definitely not, wanting to have Godzilla be a guy in a rubber suit again. There's cheese, and cheese is good, but I think at this point I'm looking for a little more than Velveeta Godzilla. But that's me.
Yeah, for me, I come at it from a slightly different angle. As someone who had issues with the most recent Godzilla movie, I'm excited to see what Toho does with the property again. It's interesting. One of the things that they did as part of their Godzilla Strategic Conference, or GodziCon, they had a bunch of their studio executives and directors all get together and meet to come up with different ideas on ways to reboot the Godzilla brand. So, Jim, to your question from before, it doesn't look like they're just trying to cash in on one film. It's like this is going to be the adrenaline shot to get the brand up and running, at least in their minds. So I'll be interested in seeing how it works out. I think with a property as broad as Godzilla, I mean, what is it? Basically monsters attacking a city, certainly some social context behind it. I think there's certainly room for both studios making Godzilla flicks. I think they can. I think they've got big enough feet that they can both exist without stepping on each other's toes.
It's going to be interesting. I can't think of another instance where two studios were making movies about the same, story franchise concurrently.
That'd be like if you had two studios doing Spider-Man films at the same time.
Yeah,
we have a world right now where two studios both stake claim to the Quicksilver character.
Yeah, but that's,
not completely the same.
Yeah, but I don't know, Will. I guess I did like the most recent Godzilla. I did like that whole movie. I don't know if it'll end up on my year's top 10. However, I did get a lot of enjoyment of watching it. But I kind of like the aesthetic that Toho had created with their Godzilla movies. No, I don't want to see him cheapen. I don't want to see a cheap, laughable Godzilla out of Toho. And I don't think we'll get that. At least I hope not. If they're serious about preserving their legacy as the creator of the Godzilla franchise, then I doubt they'd do that. But yeah, a different hey, I'd be happy with a Godzilla movie every year. I mean, now I don't have to wait till 2018 perhaps to get my next fix of the Big G.
And it's one of those things too where the movie market sort of thrives on knowing whatever it is that's hot right now and then getting a few of those similar films out. Like obviously right now we've had so many reviews of superhero movies this year, and we'll have so many reviews next year. Think what was it, like 15 years ago, and you had disaster movies. You had Armageddon and Deep Impact coming out around the same time. You know, so Volcano and Dante's Peak were competing for audiences. So I think there's sometimes there's just something in the air. Certain types of films capture the world's attention, and that's what is cranked out. And in this case, Godzilla is back. The new film was successful. Toho certainly wants to stake its claim, and I'm cool with that.
Everyone wants a piece of the Big G pie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I get excited for these movies, as I said. I mean, I grew up in an era where, the creature feature or creature double feature on Saturday was a big deal. And, fell in love with those movies, and I still have a fond remembrance for those movies. So, bring on more Godzilla, more monsters. As long as it entertains me, I'm happy for it.
There you go. So real quick, Jim, I just noticed your scenery has changed. Why don't you give us a little tour?
Oh, okay, yeah. So I got a couple new posters here. I got the Princess Kaguya back here, which we talked about on this show, I know. I don't think we reviewed it, did we?
We didn't review that one, no.
We didn't review it. But guys, go out and see it if you're a fan of the like the Miyazaki movies. It's a really, really tender and beautiful film. Go out and see that one. And of course, over here, I have Love is Strange, which we did talk about on the show.
We did, yeah.
Starring Alfred Molina and John Lithgow, which I think we all liked. So the movie theater, the independent movie theater that we have here in Tucson is called The Loft. And they have a program where you can sign up to get in like a raffle to get movie posters after the movies have completed their run at The Loft. It's basically a notebook with a sign-up sheet, and you put your name and email address. And if you're the first one to sign up for a movie poster, a specific movie poster, and once the movie ends, they just call the people who signed up in order. And for $5 you get a movie poster. So
right on.
It's a way for them to get a little money back and to get some cool posters. So I picked up these two this week. So I'm always in there. After we'll go in for a movie, and I'll go in and I'll ask them for the notebook and sign up for a couple of posters. A lot of times I strike. I even got a small poster from Mudbloods this time, which was cool.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Sweet. All right. Well, I'm totally jelly of your Princess Kaguya poster, I have to say.
Yeah. Oh, ditto. Yeah, that looks badass.
So good. That movie may also be on my top 10 list, but that's for another show.
Yeah, listeners, if you have a chance to see that, check it out. You may have to search for it at this point, but it's definitely worth seeing.
Indeed. All right. So from my movie news, we learned recently that Robert Orci is no longer the director of Star Trek III. This news actually came out last week, and there's been kind of a lot of controversy around his departure as director. And Robert Orci actually came out with some commentary on that here recently. And apparently he's going to stay on as a producer on the film and will still be very involved. But he says he's also excited about the search for a new director. So I'm not sure that this exactly bodes well for Star Trek III. What do you guys think?
Well, so there was a lot of churn when it was announced that J.J. Abrams was not going to continue as the director for the third movie, as he did with the first one and the second one, both of which I enjoyed. I know opinions vary on those movies, but I rather enjoyed both of those. I know that Roberto Orci was involved with, I think, both of those movies. I'm not sure, as a writer, perhaps. Maybe in the second movie, and I think he caught a lot of flack for the second movie and the way the second movie was written, and so forth. So when J.J. Abrams left, there was a line of directors that were a bunch of names that were thrown out. Edgar Wright was thrown out. I think the guy who did Attack the Block, I can't remember his name now. Will, help me out. Anyway, he was mentioned as a possible director, but all of those fell to the wayside, and it was announced Roberto Orci. When he was announced, I think the Star Trek fan base let out a collective groan. I don't think it was a welcome.
Which is weird, because Roberto Orci has been involved in so many amazing different projects. He was one of the main driving forces behind Transformers Prime, which was a CGI animated series obviously it's different than like a blockbuster Star Trek movie, but he's a phenomenal writer. He really does well directing. I was actually really excited to see what he was going to do with it, so I'm kind of bummed. But yeah, apparently there was kind of a fan backlash.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Star Trek 3 in anybody but Orsi's hands. Maybe that's probably a little too harsh. I have some problems with a lot of the properties that he's written have been things that I've not enjoyed as much. And he's a guy who has more experience in the producing and writing side of things than in direction itself. So it was one of those things where it felt like you were replacing someone who I think is, love him or hate him, J.J. Abrams is a guy who brings vision to a project. I think there's people that are big Abrams fans and people that absolutely hate him, but I don't think you can really doubt the amount of impact he brings. And I don't know if for me personally, if I thought Orsi was the right guy to fill those ginormous shoes. So I think that this might be the right capacity for him, because it sounds like everything I'm seeing from it is still saying, "Hey, I'm going to be heavily involved. I'm still in I'm still in the mix. I'm still here. I'm still doing things." It's just he's not going to be at the helm, and that might be the best place for him, acting as sort of the lieutenant, the second in command, or the supporting voice to whoever it is that helps guide the ship. I think that might be the right thing for this franchise.
Yeah, I think the two properties we're going to have to keep an eye on. I mean, you hate to hear about all this churn with directors. We've got it now with Star Trek 3. We had it with Ant-Man and the Marvel series. You got to wonder what this kind of instability and constant shifting of ideas is going to do for the end product, or what it says for the product that they had envisioned in the first place. So it does kind of lead me to kind of doubt. I mean, yes, Roberto Orci had never directed a movie before he was assigned to Star Trek, and I think that was one of the big outcries. But you know what?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't come in with a preconceived notion of his writing or anything, so I guess I don't have that bias. But hey, I am in favor of bringing quote unquote new directing talent into some of these tentpole movies and seeing what they can do. If sink or swim. I mean, this is the right stage to do it in. You can't have J.J. Abrams directing, every movie.
Right.
You just can't.
And that's probably fair.
Actually, I have cloned J.J. Abrams successfully. And,
you need a J.J. Abrams doll, like a voodoo doll.
I have 4 J.J. Abrams
do this.
clones.
J.J. do that. J.J. do this.
Ready to make new movies. It was actually so he could make all of the new Star Wars and Star Trek films. Like, you could just do them all, But they're in their maturation chambers.
And Jim, that's probably a fair point too. This is a guy who doesn't have any actual direction under his belt. So a lot of my issues with him are more as a writer. So it's very possible that he would bring something very interesting and fresh into the realm of direction itself. I think we've seen that from time to time, someone who it's like, I don't know how this person's really going to do. A lot of times an actor who hasn't directed before steps into the director's chair, and sometimes you can get some really creative, interesting things from that perspective. So it's very possible that him cutting his teeth here would have done great things for the franchise. I don't know. I'm interested in seeing what name ends up getting attached with it, because I think that's going to tell us which direction we can expect it to go.
Yeah, indeed. All right. Well, Will, what have you got this week?
So I want to. This one is a shout out to all of my gay musical fans out there. Not musicals that are gay, but gay listeners who like musicals. This has been a between Christmas and May is a fantastic time for anyone that loves Anna Kendrick. So if you've got your Tumblr accounts, back away from the porn and get ready to start sharing Anna Kendrick gifs again. So there's specifically 3 films that I want to talk about. Trailers for all 3 are out right now in some capacity. The first of which is Into the Woods, which is one that we've talked about a little bit on this show. It's coming out on Christmas Day, so we're talking right around the corner. Anna Kendrick plays Cinderella in this one, and one thing of note that came out this last week, After, I guess there's still some people that are like, I don't know how this is going to translate. I'm not sure. So they released a short clip, just a few seconds of Anna Kendrick performing on the steps of the palace. And to me, it was really creatively shot, really interesting. It definitely got my musical boner rock hard.
Oh boy!
I'm all ready for this movie now. We're probably gonna go see this one Christmas Day, just because I think between myself and my boyfriend Scott, like whenever we see the trailers, like. It's amazing. You just watch my boyfriend Scott. His face, like his eyes, just light up. This big smile comes across his face as he just is transfixed by the screen. So we're ready for Into the Woods. So before I go over to the other two Kendrick news items, are you guys excited about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see it. To be honest with you, the trailer, like, I'm very distracted by Meryl Streep and her getup. It looks a little dumb, but I've heard amazing things about the musical itself, and I do like Chris Pine. I'm not sure how well he sings. Of course, I love Anna Kendrick, and so I'm excited to see where things go. We've got a press screener for this one coming up, and Adam Shapiro from The Normal Heart actually wants to come on the show with us and review Into the Woods here. And
that'll be fun.
So, and he's a big old musical theater guy, so I think that'll be a really, really cool episode. But yeah, I'm excited to see the film. I just hope that it is not as cheesy as it maybe looks in the trailer.
Yeah, for me, I think it's maybe guarded optimism for the movie. It seems to be getting a big marketing push right now, and it's kind of out there, and a lot of the film and movie fans in our community are definitely talking about it, being a musical and excited about it. So, I mean, we'll see. I guess my experience with Maleficent, even though that was not really musical, and also, oh God, what did we just see last year? Les Mis last year has got me kind of guardedly optimistic for it. I'm not a huge. I mean, so I love Sondheim's lyrical work in West Side Story. But I don't know how his work is in Into the Woods. I haven't listened to that soundtrack. I know he did the music and the lyrics for Into the Woods.
Right. Yep.
And he did some of the rewrites too. They adjusted some of the book for the film, so he was heavily involved in the film itself.
Right. I know that the combination of his lyrics with the music from West Side Story was amazing. Obviously, classic. I just don't know with him doing the music and the lyrics if it's how it's going to fit in the context of a musical movie. So we'll see. I mean, the characterizations in this movie look like really over the top. Some of them, like you mentioned, Meryl Streep as some kind of witch or whatever, lives in the woods, and you got Johnny Depp, who right now I'm not super excited to see him play this wolf character. So yeah, I mean, I'm guardedly optimistic. I hope it knocks it out of the park for me. We'll have to wait till just before Christmas or another week or so, Brad, to see it.
Yep.
Yeah. Over the top is actually the direction it goes. So that's intentional, and because it sets up everything that's so beautiful. Well, it's fantasy, and it has this musical more so than a lot of ones. And again, I'm just talking about the musical itself, not the film. Packs a lot into a short package. So that over-the-topness is part of what allows you to kind of escape into the world and then realize, like, oh man, I'm getting gut punched and I didn't realize it. So there's two others that I really wanted to mention on just kind of briefly, just because this is a fantastic time for Anna Kendrick, because she's got coming out in February. So we're only talking a couple months after Into the Woods. She's got The Last 5 Years. Now, this is another musical movie. This one's based off of a 2001-2002 off-Broadway musical that explores the 5-year relationship between Anna Kendrick, who's the struggling actress, and this up-and-coming novelist played by a guy named Jeremy Jordan, who I wasn't immediately familiar with. I need to do some research. Maybe he's like that guy in that thing. But when I first saw the name, I was like, I'm not sure who that is. The whole gimmick is like kind of like their stories are kind of like working in different time orders as they meet up with one another. It's a musical that's very well lauded, and the trailer itself looks interesting. And this one did play at TIFF, actually, and there's a little bit of buzz circling it there. So I'm excited about that one, and I'm also excited about just 3 months after that, May 15th, Pitch Perfect 2 comes out. And, of course, in this one, the Anna Kendrick and her group, they're off competing at an international level, whereas before they did well at the national a cappella level. Now they're going at the international level. So a lot of good stuff for Anna Kendrick in really like a 5-6 month window. Definitely a star that is on the rise. I'm excited for all 3 movies, and I've been seeing so much buzz about all 3 of these just from a bunch of different people on Facebook. Like apparently, like I guess this is tapped into our collective subconscious in some way, shape, or form. But man, I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, I took notice of Anna Kendrick, pretty early on. I didn't like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, but I did really like 50-50. And I loved her in that movie. I actually loved that movie. Of course, Up in the Air with George Clooney was awesome as well. And that's when I kind of started to take notice of her. I would like to see her do, stay in maybe do some more serious roles. I'm not a big fan of the Pitch Perfect franchise. Maybe because
I still don't think you've seen that whole movie. Every time we watch it, you fall asleep.
Yeah, I know. It's just
Jim, that hurts my heart.
Yeah, I know, and I know I have to kind of. I probably have to turn in my gay card for that one, but it's maybe the whole Glee experience kind of burned me out on that kind of musical drama stuff. But I'm sure we'll see it, and we'll see what Anna Kendrick can do. I just don't think it's a good vehicle for someone with what I think is the talent of Anna Kendrick.
I think the last 5 years would be one I would point you towards, because that one looks like, despite being a musical, looks to be a lot weightier. Check the trailer out for that one. It's there's a lot of interesting things happening there, and it's a musical that I don't know quite as much about by comparison. So I'll be able to go into that one with a few blinders on myself, which is exciting.
Yeah, I think that makes all of us. Yeah.
Well, I'm interested to see Pitch Perfect 2. Not as much for Anna Kendrick. I don't know. I like her a lot, but I'm not like frothing at the mouth for Anna Kendrick. I really like the interplay with several of the female actors, and I'm glad that a lot of them are coming back. Jim, you kind of hit on a poignant point there about the Glee thing, right? One of my big complaints about Glee is like, every year, we're going to sectionals and finals and blah, 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 blah. And you always find a way to, like, make this happen again, and it just seems kind of strained. So the setup for the second film, now they're in this, like, adult competition and blah, blah. It's just a little, I don't know, it seems maybe a little forced, maybe. But it is a vehicle for, fun musical sort of things, and my fucking computer is going crazy with beeps from my phone, I guess. But anyway, musical hijinks. I mean, I'm totally down to musically clown with Anna Kendrick. So let's do it. All right. Cool. Well, guys, are you ready to talk about some of our favorite holiday films?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, here we go. Our favorite holiday movies. All right, so we just had a live comment from Frank, who looks like he may be hanging on. and he's just curious how to ask questions. Just comment on the page that you're watching on, Frank, and anyone else who's listening. If you want to share with us your favorite holiday movies, feel free to comment with those, and we'll give you a shout out on the air. Pretty much what we're going to do, guys, is just round robin style it. So we'll share probably 2 of our favorite films and maybe any honorable mentions if we still have some time at the end. Let's see. Last year we talked about some holiday movies too, but it was mostly geared on, like, holiday specials. I think we talked about, like, Mickey's Christmas Carol and Charlie Brown Christmas, and there were a few movies like A Christmas Story for one, and Elf, and good movies they may be, but they're all banned from this discussion because we've already talked about them. And who wants to repeat themselves? Who wants to repeat themselves?
Who wants to repeat themselves?
So I am going to kick us off with one of my favorite Christmas movies, and hold your horses because it's kind of a non-traditional Christmas film. Like, when you think Christmas, I'm not sure this movie would really come to mind, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a clue as to what my film is. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Somewhere in the background, and I have to point the other way, there is a clue to the movie I'm going to talk about. Any ideas?
The Superman Christmas movie?
No. Batman Returns, people. Batman
That
Returns.
counts. That was on my short list. Go for it.
Yep.
Good pick.
Thank you. Yeah,
So what makes that a Christmas movie?
Well, it's set at Christmas.
Okay.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, so the movie actually deals with a lot of different themes that it kind of plays around with. One of them is sort of America's gross, like, capitalism during the holiday season, and how the rich and wealthy can totally take advantage of that to brainwash us all into letting them commit evils and atrocities.
Atrosh.
All right, Sean Connery.
I was told recently that I have a lisp by one of our listeners, and he likes my lisp. So that's actually a speech impediment from when I was a kid. But atrocities. I'm channeling Sean Connery, I guess.
Atrocity.
But anyway, so this film is totally set during Christmas time. Got some familiar faces. Michael Keaton back as Batman. Michelle Pfeiffer, of course, as Selena Kyle, a.k.a. Catwoman. Sexiest, most awesome Catwoman ever. Sorry, Anne Hathaway. Danny DeVito as the Penguin, and my man Christopher Walken as Max Schreck, the capitalist villain who tries to build a power plant and steal all of Gotham's power and ruin Christmas for everybody. This movie, of course, is a Tim Burton film. He returned after doing the first movie. He was kind of on the fence. He said he wouldn't come back unless the script was really something sort of unique and exciting. And apparently, the Penguin being raised by penguins and running for mayor must have tripped his trigger. But this movie was just kind of a delight for me. This is, back in a time where superhero movies really weren't that well received. I mean, we'd had some Superman films, but it's not like a superhero smorgasbord that we have now. You know what I mean? These movies were much riskier back then, and I would venture to say this was the last good Batman movie before the Chris Nolan films. There's a lot of Christmas music and lots of Christmas trees in the background, and Gotham has its own version of Times Square, and it's all done up magically for Christmas. Of course, then you have clowns, popping out of a circus tent and doing all terrorist kind of things. But it's kind of like a dark, gritty Christmas movie. Love Michael Keaton as Batman. I really dug his interaction, with Catwoman. Michelle Pfeiffer was one of my, favorite actresses from the '90s. She was so good. Dangerous Minds, Michelle Pfeiffer. I'm giving you a shout out right now. So good. But yeah, I mean, this is one of my favorite films. I love Christopher Walken, and he just plays sort of maniacally plotting and planning, very, very well. Danny DeVito, I really didn't dig the whole Penguin thing. In fact, the whole Penguin thing could have been taken out of the movie and it just been, Batman, Catwoman, and Christopher Walken, and I'd have been fine. But anyway, have you guys? Will, I know you've seen Batman Returns. You already said it. Jim, have you seen that one?
I have not. I have not seen it. So maybe we have to put it on the list to watch in the next couple of weeks for Christmas.
There you go.
I mean, it sounds like something I'd like. I mean, I love Michelle Pfeiffer. Of course, Christopher Walken. I'll watch just about anything with him in it.
Mm-hmm.
And just to kind of build my knowledge of the Batman franchise a little bit. So you'll have to walk me through that one.
All right, I can do that.
As a quality piece, it's probably I would say it's probably my favorite of the Batman movies. Of the Christopher Nolan ones, of the Tim Burton ones, of the Schumacher ones, I would say that this was my favorite of them. Because it lets us see the character little less dark than the original Batman movie. Not quite as wacky as the Schumacher ones that followed, and not quite as convoluted as the Nolan ones ended up getting. This one had a lot of plot points going on, a lot of interesting characters doing interesting things, but it never got to the point where it was confusing. And it had that in kind of in context of this particular conversation. I remember one of the sequences took place at that giant Christmas tree. I think it was the lighting or something along those lines. But I remember there was that giant Christmas tree sequence. So I think this one counts as a Christmas movie. Kind of in an unconventional way, kind of the way something like Gremlins or Die Hard, those films are often put on people's Christmas movie lists, and I think that this one kind of has the same place next to those ones.
I would totally agree. Interesting that you mentioned some of those films. One of them may also be on my list.
Yeah,
we'll have to see. But yeah, Jim, we'll totally have to watch it. Okay. So quick shout out from our buddy Felipe here in Tucson. He says, didn't like Scott Pilgrim. That could be a friendship breaker. You, Jim.
Nah, sorry.
Thank you, Felipe. I was thinking the same. That's probably a top 10 personal favorite movie film for me. So when Jim said that, I was like, I don't know.
I'm sorry. I think it's just a generational thing.
Maybe it is.
And then he said ... and haven't seen Batman Returns? Come on, Jim.
Well, we'll fix that. That one could be fixed. And maybe we could salvage a portion of the relationship that we have. But I don't know if you'll ever get me to like Scott Pilgrim.
Oh goodness! All right. Well, Will, what is one of your favorite movies?
It was interesting picking films this year because last year we went through 9 or 10 different films, and I think last year we hit a lot of the more conventional selections. Maybe that's not the right word, but we came across some of the ones that I think are at the top of most people's minds. So when I was looking at my list this year, I was thinking about things that personally fired for me, things that maybe aren't on everyone's list but personally worked for me. So the first one is one of my absolute favorite Christmas movies, and it was the Muppet Christmas Carol from 92? From 1992.
Thank you.
Thank you, IMDb.
Thank you, IMDb.
Muppet Christmas Carol is amazing. First of all, it helps that I am a big Muppet fan. I grew up with the Muppets. Kermit and Fozzie and all those guys are just near and dear to my heart. Around this time, there were a lot of different Muppet movies that were coming out that were kind of in the heyday, not just for my childhood, but also kind of in the heyday of, I think, their big quality feature films featuring the main characters, the ones that we all know and love. This one was interesting because it featured Michael Caine as Ebenezer Scrooge, and it combined a few different really interesting elements. Again, you've got Caine as Scrooge, with this cast that is equal parts real-life actors and Muppets. It wasn't a film that was all puppetry. There was a lot of this blend, and in some cases, for a a 1992 Muppets movie, some of the effects were actually quite appealing, quite interesting the way that they pulled off things, especially the any of the sequences with the Ghost of Christmas Past. I was rewatching that today, just kind of like refreshing myself for this, and was just thinking like these almost hold up by today's standards. You know, it's like it looked quite good. Also, you have this musical score, or these songs that were done by Paul Williams, who is
he's still
amazing. Paul,
still alive.
He is. And, you know, of course he has, you know, when we think of Muppets and Paul Williams, we immediately think of the Rainbow Connection. But past that, I mean, he did the songs for this film, and just listening to them again, it's like, yeah, man, these are quite good. These are legitimately good songs. It took the Christmas Carol story, the one we all know and love, you know, with the Ebenezer Scrooge and the Ghost of Marley, or in this case, with both Waldorf and Statler as the two Marleys. The Ghost of Christmas Past, of Present, and Christmas Yet to Be, Tiny Tim, all of those different characters are presented in very interesting, intriguing ways that are also very true to the original story. This is also a story that, for Muppets, it doesn't shy away from, like, you know, does Tiny Tim die? You know, like some of the darkness that kind of is inherent in that storyline. I think that's what makes that story so appealing. You know, knowing just how damned this guy is, just how terrible he has been, and all of the consequences that's caused to everyone that he's met or everyone that he's known, and to himself as well, and giving him a chance to salvage it, you know, before it's too late. This film does a great job of doing that. Music, visuals, the comedy of the Muppets, but also knowing when to peel back and just, you know, let the serious things be serious. I strongly recommend anyone that's watched looking for a good Christmas Carol variation. And of course, there's plenty of them between Mickey and between Scrooged and what have you. You know, there's lots of options out there. But I strongly recommend the Muppet Christmas Carol. It's quite good.
You know, I was a big fan of this when it came out. This is another one of those that I had taped on a VHS tape between like Die Hard 2 and I don't know, like Indiana Jones or something. And
right on.
This part of the tape like got so worn out from me watching that movie that like the whole tape became unplayable. And so, you know, our machine started eating it because it was so thinned out, and so I ruined Die Hard and Indiana Jones for my family by my love of this film. But it was good, and you're so right, Will. Like, you know, the effects, especially with the ghosts, was awesome. And you know, I don't know if this has been cleaned up and released at all on Blu-ray. I would actually be interested to kind of find out, because I would totally rewatch it. My fear is just, you know, who watches anything in standard definition anymore if they can help it. You know, but yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Jim, did you see this one? Was this something that was on your radar?
No, it wasn't. Again, like this movie, I think it's a generational thing, because, you know, when this movie came out, you said, what year was it, Will? 92?
1992.
So 92, right? I'm 32. I'm, you know, trying to, you know, raise. I mean, I did have a young daughter, so I'm guessing she may have seen it, but it just wasn't on my radar. You know, I'm in a different life place, and I never seen it. It's not that I'm not a fan of the Muppets, or I'm not a fan of, you know, A Christmas Carol. It sounds like that's exactly what it was, and I think I remember actually seeing like maybe snippets of this movie, you know, in different spots, in different promos, or maybe even online. But I never got to see the whole movie.
Well, I tell you what, it came out on Blu-ray a couple years ago. They cleaned it up and restored it. So if you like the Muppets, I know you liked the first Muppet movie. We didn't really like the second one as much.
Right.
If you want to ever watch that one too, it's on Blu-ray. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, my love of the Muppets comes from the Sesame Street show. Like, it's kind of, when they went into the movies, it kind of crossed a threshold for me. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just a kind of a different environment where, it was more of a Muppets world as opposed to I don't know how to describe it. Just kind of like a human's world that the Muppets kind of lived in, and I don't know. Maybe it was too much for me, and I just it kind of stole away from some of the wonder of the original like Sesame Street characters a little bit. But anyway, that's where my affinity for the Muppets comes from. Less so for the Muppet movies, and that's not because I dislike them or I don't, I just don't like those movies. But again, it's beyond the point where I was kind of interested in that, I guess.
Right, makes sense.
Definitely. Hey, we got a comment from somebody.
Ooh.
Oh, nice. What do we got?
I don't know if any of us can actually comment on this, so Frank from Tempe, Arizona says, "The Bishop's Wife" from 1947, Cary Grant and Loretta Young. He says, "Dudley the Angel rocks." I have no idea. Seems like we're going to have to do some looking into that movie, The Bishop's Wife. I am putting it on my list right now to check into.
Yeah, I've not heard of any of these. I think 1947 is actually a movie unto itself.
Well, the Bishop's Wife came out in 1947.
Did it? Okay.
So that's what he's referencing there.
Oh,
Interestingly enough, this one was, maybe I'm remembering this, or no, okay, looks like this is right. This one was remade back in the mid-90s as The Preacher's Wife, which was the Denzel Washington and Whitney Houston movie. So there's that. Interestingly enough, Jim, I was just, as we were talking here, I tossed it into Google and was like, I wonder if that's showing around here right now, just because this is the time of year where you start seeing, theaters doing kind of older films, archive films.
Yeah.
And it's actually playing tomorrow night here in Austin, 9:25 at the Paramount Theater, which is where Jim and I saw.
I know where that is.
Many a movie.
The Evil Dead movie theater.
Yep.
Yeah. The Boyhood movie theater. Yeah,
that could be interesting to see on the big screen.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, that might be a good one to check out.
Old time movie theater, and a nice classic movie. I know nothing about it, Frank. I'm sorry, but we'll definitely check into it, and we'll get back to you and let you know what we think of it.
Indeed.
Will, did you have any more to say about A Muppet's Christmas Carol?
No, I didn't. Just the other place that you can find it is on Netflix for Netflix people. So it is accessible. As Brad mentioned, through Blu-ray re-release, Netflix. It is out there. No excuse not to watch it while you're hanging the tree or opening presents or cozying up next to the fire, which is something that those of us in Tucson and Austin may not appreciate, but some of our listeners will.
Well, hey, it's the desert here. It's been like 40 at night, so we appreciate making a campfire and cuddling up.
I'm a Netflix people, so I guess that's how I will go and find it.
There you go.
All right. Well, Jim, what's your movie? Your first one.
So, Brad, you mentioned we really talked about our favorite Christmas movies, and you're right. We threw in some Christmas TV series and shows last year at this time. So I'm trying to dig and find, all right, now I got to go dig up my second string of favorite Christmas movies. And it was difficult, so I kind of took a different route to it, and I said, okay, I'm going to find some some movies that I love that just happen to have Christmas as, part of the story in some way or another. So, it's going to be arguable. People are going to argue, say, that's not a Christmas movie. And you know what? You're probably right. I wouldn't consider it necessarily a Christmas movie, quote unquote. But a movie that had Christmas themes in it or had a Christmas setting. And mine is Edward Scissorhands from 1990.
That totally counts.
Yeah. I mean, some people might say that, that's not a Christmas movie. But anyway, it fucking counts on this show, that's for sure, because it's the three of us. If we say it counts, it fucking counts. So,
that's right.
Especially with us kind of choosing, I think all of us were in the mindset of like looking at it from a slightly different angle or looking at things like a little untraditionally, and I think so. I think that's definitely at home here.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite, or certainly in the running for my favorite Tim Burton movie. It's amazing now that I think about it how many Tim Burton movies actually have Christmas kind of as part of the part of the story, right?
That's two on this podcast
That's two.
already.
Yeah,
And we
and then
did Nightmare Before Christmas
Nightmare
last year.
Before Christmas. Yeah, exactly. So.
Yep. Yep.
So we got a lot going on there, and the movie, for those of you who haven't seen it, will probably spoil some of the movie, so be careful. You may want to jump ahead 5 or 10 minutes. But yeah, this is it's a dark romantic fantasy. We also talked about Johnny Depp earlier, and here he is, right, in one of the roles where I really like Johnny Depp. He runs hot and cold for me. I do not like much of the Pirates franchise. I just kind of like some of the. There you go, Brad. Brad's doing his scissor hands.
Snip, 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 snip.
That's awesome. Anyway, but yeah, it's really the story of Pinocchio, right? Done kind of modernized and put into a dark fantasy kind of a storyboard. About this guy. He's this creature that Vincent Price, in one of his last great roles as a movie star, was in. He created this boy or teenager. Hadn't actually given him hands yet, but so he gave him these kind of Swiss Army knife kind of arms and hands, and he did the best he could, and he's trying to he gets away from the castle and goes out to experience life and discovers that I think he has a sense of longing for being a real boy. And where the Christmas theme comes in is kind of toward the end. I think the whole like second half of the movie is set around Christmas time, in this very suburban tract house neighborhood, and all the lights are up, and he's, of course, with his scissor and knife hands, he's making these huge like ice sculptures for everyone, and which comes into play at the end of the movie when. He at the end of the movie, there's a very poignant scene where he's supposedly been killed, or the girl tells everybody that he's been killed, but he's actually still alive. He's in the castle and he's carving ice sculptures and making it snow in the neighborhood there around Christmas time. One of the best endings to a movie that I've seen. So yeah, I really love this movie. I thought twice about it when I said, is it really a Christmas movie? But yeah, I think it is. I think it definitely kind of has that melancholy, nostalgic feeling of Christmas, especially toward the end, because the neighborhood that it took place in seemed to be kind of a throwback to another time. The movie was set in like 1990, but it felt like 1950s and 1960s middle America. And when I grew up. So I think that's another reason why I resonated with this movie. Have either of you guys seen this movie, this relic of a movie?
I freaking love Edward Scissorhands. Such a great, great film. Absolutely. What a good pick.
Yeah, right there on the same page. That's a really, really good one. There's the ice sculpture scene earlier in the film too. That is one of the most touching scenes that I think ever came from a Tim Burton film. Definitely a filmmaker who I think I feel like I've ragged on him recently just because I haven't liked a lot of his more modern stuff, but he has produced a lot of films in the past that I have absolutely adored and loved. Edward Scissorhands being one of them. Yeah, good pick.
Yep, love that one, and that's another one that I haven't actually seen it in so long.
Yeah.
That it might be worth. I know we have a DVD of it. I don't believe we have it on Blu-ray, but maybe we can find a high def on Netflix or something.
Oh,
I want to go back and watch this one so I'm remembering a scene fairly early on in the film where he's sitting on the waterbed and he punches it and the water comes up, and I think he puts again, it's been like 2 decades since I've seen this movie, but I believe he puts a stuffed animal over it to stop the water. for a movie that I haven't seen in like 20 plus years, for like little scenes like that to resonate. Again, that's you're right. That kind of that nostalgic. Like this reminds me of my childhood. This reminds me of just another time, and I think that's part of what makes this fit so well around this time of year.
You know what we should do? We should all three watch it at the same time, and we'll get on Skype or maybe Hangout or whatnot, and we'll just live comment as we watch the movie, and we'll record it, put it out as an episode, and then people can we'll clap when people press play for the movie, and then...
Oh, nice. We will we'll riff track this, or well, maybe not riff it, but you know what I mean. Like we'll live commentary. Oh, that would be a lot of fun.
I would love to live comment a couple of movies. I mean,
that would be awesome.
Whether it's this one or another one, and it could be one we've seen or it could be a new one. I mean, whatever we want to do, that would be so much fun if we could figure out how to do it, either on Skype or here on Google Plus. And also get listeners maybe to be watching along and offering their comments as we go. That would be a lot of fun.
I'd definitely prefer to do it with like a something we've seen before, because I'm so spoiled on I've talked about on the show like the Alamo Drafthouse experience of absolute silence, that now it's spilled over to where when I watch a movie around the house, and it's like if someone starts talking, it's like gotta pause it just because gotta focus.
You're not the only one, Will. You're not the only one.
Yeah, Jim's referring to me. I do that a lot.
Brad, there's
a few comments, okay, but if you have to take more than 10 seconds to say something, we're gonna pause it and then probably have to rewind.
No, I totally get it. I mean, I'm not one to conduct a conversation during a show or a movie. A quick comment here or there, I'm okay with. Brad, you're giving me the evil eye, but no, I don't.
Brad's giving the look quick comment my ass.
Yeah.
But no, if we did something like you mentioned, like Edward Scissorhands, or something that we've all seen that's maybe been out a little while, maybe some of our viewers will have guys, I really want you guys to talk about X, Y, or Z or whatever. Let us know. Maybe it's it'll be something that gets us jazzed, and we'll put it out as a special episode. That'd be fun.
It could definitely be fun.
The Bishop's wife.
Speaking of feedback from listeners, I actually have a comment here. This is Felipe from Tucson, Arizona. He says, along the lines of Jim's comment, there are many unconventional Christmas flicks. He mentions the cult classic 1941 and Lethal Weapon, which is another one that when I was kind of looking at alternative choices was one in the mix. Very good picks.
Pretty much the whole Die Hard series. Those all took place. At least the first two took place during Christmas.
I mean, there's lots of people that do Die Hard as their annual Christmas movie, and I get it. It's. I think there's a certain generation that grew up probably on It's a Wonderful Life and grew up on A Christmas Story and things like that. And there's a certain time where it was just I want to forge my own path. And Die Hard, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, let's make that my Christmas tradition. And I get that. It's building your own things. For us, it's Elf, and which is a fairly recent film, and maybe not the best film of all time, certainly, but it's certainly one that I enjoy every Christmas because it is just so saccharine sweet it's what I need to get in the mood for it. Of course, if you want to hear more about that movie, listen to last year's. But
it's. Go ahead.
Well, Felipe, talks about 1941, which is the old John Belushi movie. The only thing I really remember from that movie is the freaking. What do you call it? Ferris wheel, rolling down the pier, out to the ocean and falling in at the end. I remember that one. But
spoilers.
If you really want to talk, my next pick when I get there will be even more unconventional than Edward Scissorhands. I guarantee that.
Will, it's funny that you mentioned going back and listening. To our discussion of Elf, because I actually did go back and re-listen to that whole episode yesterday on my day off. I was playing some Warcraft and listening to that old episode, just so I could make a list of the movies we talked about so we didn't repeat, right? Yeah. And do you remember the Zooey Deschanel rant you went off on?
Oh my gosh! Like, I probably was it basically saying that I super loved her in Elf, but I absolutely like hate the new thing that she's morphed into. This like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm so adorable thing. You know.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
Yes, I
I was
remember
like,
that now.
yep. I was like, wow, who knew that Zoe Deschanel could get Will so riled up?
Zoe Deschanel of all people. Yeah, weird.
Oh,
But yeah, it's like I
goodness.
still go back and watch that movie, and I still enjoy what she did in that quite a bit.
Well,
Definitely.
as Anna Kendrick doesn't turn into Zoe Deschanel, we'll do all right.
Oh boy. All right. Well, my next Christmas movie got a mention earlier already. It is Gremlins. So again, kind of an unconventional. I mean, kind of. I mean, it's set at Christmas. You know, Gizmo coming into the family was as a Christmas gift, but it's really more of like a kind of a pseudo horror movie in a way, kind of, right? I mean,
Mhm. Oh
I
yeah,
don't.
It's
Yeah,
it's
a little bit
goofball
of
horror
everything, right?
kind of.
Like
yeah,
it's
it's.
comedy, it's horror, it's very slapsticky.
Hmm.
It's a little
Yeah,
bit of everything. Yeah.
yeah, but I like
Innocent
it. The
adventure.
the basic plot of the film, if you haven't seen Gremlins, and if you haven't, why the hell not? But basically, there's a struggling inventor, and he wants to get his grown son something really special for Christmas, something really unique, and he wanders into a Chinatown antique store in New
Hmm.
York, and
Very mysterious.
yes, and the guy running the store has this little thing called a mogwai, and it's this cute little furry monster thing. And of course, he doesn't want any of the antiques. He's like, "Oh man, I'll buy the Mogwai." And the owner of the store is like, "No, you are not ready for the Mogwai." Then he like goes back, and the shop owner's son is like, "Dude, our family totally needs the money. Here, give me $5." And well, it wasn't really $5, but anyway, so the guy ends up like selling the Mogwai, his granddad or his father's Mogwai, which was a pretty dick move, I have to say, even if they needed the money. But he basically says three things. If you're going to own this thing, you have to make sure to never expose it to bright light because that will kill it. You have to make sure that you never, ever get it wet. He doesn't say why, which, again, kind of a dick move. And says never, ever feed it after midnight. Also, we don't know why. And so, spoiler alert, basically, he
All
takes the
those things
Mogwai
happen.
home and gives it to his son, and he tells his son, again, no bright light, don't get it wet, no matter how much it pleads with you, don't feed it after midnight. And what happens? Well, he ends up spilling a glass of water ends up spilling on Gizmo, and 5 more Mogwai pop out of his back, and now we have other furry little monsters running around. But unlike Gizmo, who's all nice and sweet and timid, this group of Mogwai, they're pretty aggressive, and they're led by Spike, who has kind of like a white kind of stripy thing, and or I'm sorry, his name's Stripe, not Spike. I'm thinking of My Little Ponies for some reason. But anyway, things happen.
That's a good mashup.
I know, right? Things happen, and
Wow,
they
yeah.
the evil Mogwai end up chewing through the alarm clock cord, and that way that Billy doesn't realize it's past midnight, and he feeds them like fried chicken or something, and then they go into cocoons and become these evil gremlin things, and they end up spawning like hundreds of other gremlins, and basically it's a holiday sort of set film where they have to kill the monsters and blah 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 blah. So, Will, I know you've seen Gremlins. Jim, have you seen Gremlins?
I did a long time ago. I forget a lot of it, but I basically I know the story and I remember parts of it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean I liked that the movie seemed to be like, if you think of it, kind of a weird take on this whole like it was a Chinese shop, right, that he was in.
Well, Cantonese, but
It was yeah, and kind of like a whole take on how the brashness of Americans and how we're totally not ready for the mystical ways of the Mogwai and of course in an American's hands things go totally to shit.
And
But-
let's not forget entitlement. I should be able to have it because I want it. So
Right.
give it to me.
I want it now. Yeah.
Now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Gremlins is it's definitely
Mm.
a seminal kind of goofball horror monster movie from the 80s and that everybody knows.
So I learned a couple things today that I did not know about Gremlins. Mogwai was actually voiced by Howie Mandel, or Gizmo was voiced by Howie Mandel. Didn't realize that. And Stripe, the leader of the Gremlins, was voiced by Frank Welker, who you may recognize as the voice of Megatron from the Transformers. I had no idea.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. This movie also had Hoyt Axton in it, who I love.
Yep. And Zach Galligan as Gizmo's guy pal Billy. I don't know that he's been in anything else after the Gremlins movies, but
Maybe he has, but I'm drawing a blank. It was a very accessible movie. That's what I think. That's why it ends up on a lot of people's lists or a lot of people's memories. You think about this type of movie; it had monsters, cool, but it also had like kind of cute, fuzzy creatures. It had adventure. It had scary things, but not so scary. I remember this came out again. We talk about how Brad and I had similar, similar youth experiences just because of our age group. And I remember this movie like everyone around my age loved this freaking movie. It was like the kind of the scary-ish. I'm using air quotes here. Movie that your parents would let you watch. So it was. I think there's a reason why some of these films become so important to so many of us, like these little touchstones to a lot of our youths. And even the second one, which got a lot weirder and focused a little bit more on the comedy, was still a super enjoyable watch, even though it was so silly.
Man, I wish I was more into movies back when I was in my early my early to mid 20s and that age, instead of trying to start my career and then spending weekends getting drunk with friends. Really, I mean, look at all the movie experiences I missed, and I had to kind of catch up on, and I'm still catching up on them.
See what you miss when you're getting drunk and getting laid and hanging out with real people.
I know, right? Great things about movies. It's like all of us, no matter our age, there is this huge wealth of films that came before us, and I'm not just talking about, that came before Brad and I, Jim, even that came before you.
Right.
And I know that there are so many good quality films out there that I haven't seen, and then so many more on the horizon that are going to be coming out in 2015, 2016, 2017. It excites me, genuinely excites me, that I've got a full life full of just exciting cinema to either catch up on or to see it live or just all of that. That's the great thing about movies. We've got such experience. We've got such a history with it. We're never going to run out of films to watch.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of great films to watch, we have a live comment from Clint Georgeson, who says that his pick is The Family Stone from 2005. He says, it's a great movie set around Christmas time, worth a watch every year, superb story filled with an excellent cast. It will have you laughing, crying, sobbing at times, and then bring you right back to laughing again. I have never heard of The Family Stone. Have you guys?
I have heard of it. Not much I can tell you about it. Of course, Google or IMDb will tell us a lot about it. But I do recall hearing about it. And does he say who stars in that movie?
It has like Claire Danes, Diane Keaton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Diane Keaton.
I haven't seen it myself. It was one of those ones that I've been aware of that I just haven't watched. I hadn't heard anyone give it a strong recommendation before. I haven't heard anything bad against it. So Clint, this is actually really good. This one is right now going on my list because that is a heck of a recommendation.
There you go.
It sounds like maybe a Christmas version of August Osage County almost. One of these movies where like the family gets together and family dynamics just start to happen, both with comedic effect and poignancy as well. So yeah,
maybe another one to add to the watch list.
I think so.
All right. Well, Will, what is your next and final movie.
So this one I was debating a little bit because there are times where I think that I absolutely love this movie, and there's times where it is way too sweet for my tastes. And that movie is 2003. Yeah, 2003's Love Actually. And I picked this one for a reason. I think this is the type of film that at other times of the year may not necessarily work as much for me because it is a very saccharine sweet movie at times, following these, I believe it's like 10 major characters or so as they all interconnect on their own little romantic journeys in England. Stellar cast in this. You've got, and then just a laundry list of few people: Bill Nighy, Colin Firth, Liam Neeson, Emma Thompson, Martin Freeman is in this, Joanna Page, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Keira Knightley, Walking Dead's Andrew Lincoln is in this. So a lot of
Rick.
great people in this. Yeah.
Rick, we got to talk about Christmas, Rick.
All right, Coral. Yeah, so there's a lot of things happening in this film. But what strikes me so much about this movie, what I enjoy so much about it, especially around this time of the year, of course, it's counting down the film like over the 5 weeks prior to Christmas as these people go through these emotional journeys, some of them finding love, some of them rediscovering love, some of them facing, all of the types of things that you would normally see in a romantic comedy, but at the microcosm, you've got these 10 stories all happening at once, but you have these beautiful little moments. There's this sequence where Hugh Grant, who plays the newly elected prime minister, is dancing around. He's dancing around, and he thinks he's alone. And as he comes into this one room, his back is to this aide who's just looking at him as he's dancing around, and he turns around and just very casually slips into, "Oh, well, Mary, I think let's move the meeting with the ambassador to 4 p.m." Just very casually, very slickly. It's such a brilliantly choreographed sequence. There's Rowan Atkinson, who's an absolute scene stealer as this clerk at this mall jewelry shop. There's Martin Freeman and I forget the actress he's up against. They're these like nude stand-ins for another film, and they're like timidly asking each other out while having to like do these like nude sex acts on one another for the camera. And then there's of course the very famous sequence where the guy holds up the little cards and says, "To me, you are perfect." It's so sappy. Each one of these things could be a scene in a romantic comedy of its own, but you've really got in this film like multiple romantic comedies all squished into one with a lot of the extra bullshit taken out and just focused on these little short stories as they go through. Great this time of year, really makes you feel happy, really makes you feel excited about the concept of love and the different iterations of love. And like I said, this film is so sweet in places it will give you a cavity, but this is the right time of year for that.
Will, is there something about it that makes it stand? I've heard other people talk about this movie too, and kind of put it up. It seems like it's a level above some of those other sweet, saccharine, romantic comedy kind of movies. Is there something about it that you think, does it have a unique angle or something that you think might appeal to somebody who normally wouldn't go for that kind of movie?
Yeah, one of the big appeals is that it is basically a series of vignettes, although they're cut into one another, and some of the characters from one storyline will pop into another one. But it's a lot of stories that are all happening at the same time, and we've certainly seen that several times since. Post Love Actually, we ended up with Valentine's Day, and there was a New Year's one, I forget what it was called. All tried to kind of capitalize on that same approach, and I don't think they did, because they weren't unique, they weren't fresh, they didn't do what Love Actually did. But on top of all of that, all of these different performers are all at the top of their game. You've got Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant is the type of guy who's super charming in romantic comedies, and that's kind of his shtick. And you get like a you get to see all of that here, but again, you don't have like
Hmm.
a full 90 minutes of Hugh Grant being Hugh Grant. You
Right.
have, he occupies like 1/10 of a 2-hour plus movie. Same thing with like Liam Neeson, who goes through the storyline about helping his son try to get the attention of a girl at his school. That's the type of story that certainly could be drawn out into a full feature. We've seen that type of thing drawn out, but in this case, we have to pace it down to where we're able to see just the key elements. It's a lot of. I almost think of it as like a bunch of tightly paced stories all mushed together into
that's
one
cool.
overall atmospheric film.
That's cool, and it sounds. I mean, the cast sounds amazing. We're gonna have to put this one on the list too. Hey, we have another comment. This is from another friend, another person we know here in Tucson, Matt Hansen, our friend Matt. He says he's watching us now.
Hi, Matt.
Hi, Matt. Merry Christmas, Matt. It says, have lots of favorites, but mine has to be Miracle on 34th Street, the original. He says, and Matt's not even 26 years old, but it keeps the magic and spirit of Santa Claus that I loved in my childhood. So there you go, Matt. And there's another one, a classic Christmas movie. I mean, when you talk about classic, Christmas movies, you're talking, It's a Wonderful Life and Miracle on 34th Street. Those are kind of the two that just pop into my head right away. And yeah, I mean that's if I was gonna pick classic Christmas movies, definitely those two would be at the top of the list.
And it's funny, like, I don't know if you guys went through the same thing that I did, but as I was getting ready with some of my lists, I was looking at some of these films, and I saw that no one had picked Miracle on 34th Street, and I thought, well, Brad or Jim are probably going to take this one, so I'll pick something else to leave that one for them.
Right.
So I think that we kind of all worked around it, not out of any disrespect for the film, but more just because we all anticipated someone else grabbing it.
It was on my honorable mentions list, so yay! Now it's already brought up.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, when on Thanksgiving morning, when we're downstairs, getting ready for the day, cooking, or getting the house ready for guests or whatever, we typically watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, right? And that's, I believe, right there on 34th Street. So that kind of always brings to mind that movie when I watch that parade, and of course Santa's at the end of the parade too. So, yeah. So I do think of that movie, and it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I'll have to get back to it.
Indeed. All right. Okay, let's see. We have one more movie to go, Jim, and it is yours. Yeah. What is it?
So I said that my next movie would be an even more unconventional, quote-unquote, Christmas movie, and it's the 2008 British crime comedy film, In Bruges.
Bless you.
Yeah, In Bruges. And this film has Brendan Gleeson, which we saw this year in Calvary. Amazing. He's also being talked about for awards, by the way, still. Has Colin Farrell. And those two are they're Irish hitmen who are on a job in London when it goes really bad. And they have to go away for a while. The big boss says, hey, you guys need to lay low for a while. So they end up going to Bruges in Belgium to kind of ride out the badness that happened from the last job they were at. And then things kind of go sideways from there. It's a crime comedy, but it's got a lot of sinister elements too. If you've watched the Brendan Gleeson movie The Guard, or any of those kind of British dark comedy movies, even Calvary to some degree had a bit of comedy in it. That's the kind of comedy you get here. But where the Christmas element comes in is the time of year that this happens is the holidays in Belgium. And it's just a really cool backdrop to see all of those, how do you say it, just historical, beautiful backdrops of the city and the countryside, the city of Bruges and the canals and the streets, all decorated up. It's just, and the movie does have a melancholy tone to it as well, and I won't spoil the ending or anything, but it's a pretty sad movie, and as you know that a lot of people Christmas brings up happy memories, but it also can bring out sadness in people too.
Mm-hmm.
And I just loved the way the city of Bruges was portrayed in this movie. Have either one of you seen this? I don't think you saw this, Brad, right?
Nope.
Will, I don't think you saw this one either. Yeah, this one is really good. Also, Ralph Fiennes is in this one as another gangster type. Just a really good movie. It won a bunch of BAFTA awards. I think it's an overlooked movie. I really liked it. So you guys should check it out.
Check it, yo.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, Brad, that needs to be my ringtone.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, guys, we've already gone an hour and a half. Can you believe it? It's been a very long show.
And we were going to try to do 3 movies each.
I know. Not happening. Sorry. Very, very, very quickly, do you have any other honorable mentions you want to bring up? And I mean name only, no description. Rapid fire. What do you got?
Yeah. Have we mentioned National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation?
Nope.
The animated Frosty the Snowman. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's a Wonderful Life, Miracle on 34th, and and even though it was kind of crappy, it was also super nostalgic. Prancer. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, Prancer! I love Prancer.
It was bad, but it was also nostalgically good. So yeah.
How about you, Jim?
Imagine a gay podcast talking about Prancer.
Prancer.
The only other one that really comes to mind, and again, it's not necessarily a Christmas movie, but one that was set around Christmas time, and Christmas does kind of infuse the whole story, is Moonstruck. If you guys remember Moonstruck, with Cher and Nicolas Cage.
Whoa.
I don't know if either of you guys have seen that movie, but it's a great comedy. Back when Cher was in her kind of acting heyday, that was around the time of Mask and some of the really good movies that she made for a very short period of time that were really good. And I guess you could say the same thing about Nicolas Cage too. But yeah, Moonstruck is just one of the only ones, as I was thinking about unconventional quote-unquote Christmas movies, Moonstruck came up.
Nice. For me, honorable mentions would be Home Alone 2, White Christmas, and Die Hard. So, all right. Are you guys ready to move on to some quick plugs?
Yeah.
I suppose we are.
All right. So, here we go. Getting our pluggage out of the way, taken care of. Fill in those pluggage holes. Will, why don't you go first? What do you got?
So this is a film that I think I may have plugged when I saw it theatrically, but I'm bringing it up again now because it is available on Netflix, and that's a Polish drama called Ida. I bring this up now because this is a film that is I enjoyed quite a bit. Brilliant little film about 1960s Poland. And this young nun who, along with her a little bit more boisterous aunt, they kind of go on their own little emotional journeys together. I bring this up now, one, because it's on Netflix, so a lot of times these smaller films that I see here in Austin, I think, like, man, there's probably some people that may not have the same viewing opportunities as I do. And I recommend these films, and it's like, well, great, Will, but where the fuck can I see this thing? It is on Netflix right now, and the other reason I bring it up is this is a film that I keep seeing different awards. Both L.A. and New York. We'll talk about those at a later show. Have talked about this film. This one is in a bunch of. It's been submitted for Best Foreign Language Film at the upcoming Oscars. This film is circulating. It's getting a lot of award buzz. You may be seeing some statues attached to this film's name. So check it out now. It's called Ida, and it is on Netflix.
Awesome. All right. Jim, what about you?
Well, interesting you brought that one up, Will, because I actually had 2 plugs in mind. and that was one of them. I actually got to see Ida, or Ida, I guess they're pronounced in the movie that way anyway.
Yeah.
This last weekend on Netflix, and yes, it's a great movie to watch. It's black and white, it's subtitled, and that's not probably going to get it a lot of just on those two things alone, it's not going to get a lot of attention. But it's gorgeous movie. The cinematography is fantastic. Just striking images in this movie. It's a pretty quiet movie, a very touching movie. It's a great plug. I've already seen it, and I echo your sentiments on that movie. But my plug is, and I almost forgot what the heck it was, is a trailer that I saw today for a movie, an upcoming movie with Joseph Gordon-Levitt called The Walk. Interesting name for the movie, but it's basically the narrative version of a great documentary that I saw from a few years ago called Man on Wire. If you've ever seen that documentary, this is a dramatized narrative movie about Philippe Petit, who was a guy who, I don't know what year it was, but he actually walked a tightrope or a wire that was strung between the two towers of the World Trade Center, just on a lark, just on a whim. He wasn't getting paid. This was a secret, clandestine mission that he was doing just for himself to prove that he could do it. Of course, none of us knew about the tragedy of 9/11 that was going to happen. That would put even more emphasis on what he did. But I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I love to see him act. I love this documentary. I would say I'm going to keep an eye out for the release of this movie. I'm not sure when it's coming out, but the trailer was just dropped today. It's directed by Robert Zemeckis. So it's got some high power directorial abilities behind it. Check it out, and also check out the documentary. Probably one of my favorites ever.
Check it. Yeah.
The movie's called The Walk, and the documentary is called Man on Wire.
Awesome. All right.
Good plug.
Very good. So we have Ida, Man on Wire / The Walk. And for me, I'm going to give a quick shout out. Jim, you mentioned The Loft earlier. We are big fans of The Loft Cinema here on the Movie Bears podcast, and so I want to give them a quick plug. This Thursday evening, they're having their annual Very Merry Holiday Sing-Along. And for any of our Tucson or Phoenix friends, our Bear group is actually putting a group together. That's at 7 p.m. At the Loft. And it's always so much fun because they basically have like an hour and a half of like clips from all these different like holiday specials and music videos, and it has like the Follow the Bouncing Ball sort of style, and they get about 300 people into their main theater. They give out like red and green glow sticks so you can like rave if you want, I guess. But it's just so much fun. Like they have eggnog, they have a bad sweater contest, so everyone wears their most hideous holiday sweaters, and it's awesome. So if you guys are in the area, Will, I'm sorry you're too far away to be here, but it's going to be a super, super fun time. So definitely check it out.
Sounds like fun. That's awesome.
It's a blast, and Brad will probably say the same exact thing. It kind of kickstarts our Christmas spirit going into the holidays for people who are local who can get there. If you're struggling with the time of year and need that little holiday spirit boost, this will do it. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So I think that wraps us up for this week, guys. Those of you who have been hanging out with us live, thank you so much for sharing your holiday favorite films with us. We've enjoyed hearing from you guys. And those who are listening on digital tape delay, we still want to hear your picks. Maybe we'll even revisit it very quickly, beginning of next episode, to share some other great films. So definitely leave us a comment, give us a shout out, let us know what your favorite films are, because we're looking for new movies to watch during the holiday season too. Maybe juice up our holiday batteries with some new movies. But
We've got a couple. We had a couple of great comments
Yeah,
and
yeah.
suggestions, and
Absolutely.
we're going to check some of those out.
Definitely. So, all right. Well, I hope you all have a great week, and we'll see y'all next time. We're going to be celebrating our 2-year anniversary next week. What?
Wow.
Crazy. So yeah, it's going to be a fun episode. But we'll see you all then. Take care. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Full power, Rudolph.
Okay, Santa.